Hey everyone, this is Mike from Mike's Do It Yourself. Today I want to show you how to put in a tow package for a 2019 Nissan Pathfinder. Now this is going to be for the Nissan Pathfinder's years 2013 to current, so through 2020 so far. Got the 2021s coming up pretty soon here. Now this one has a tow button, but it didn't come with a tow hitch or receiver. So as you can see on the bottom here, we've got nothing that we can tow with. We just had a big spare tire there. So what we need to do is get the receiver on and get all the wiring in. So what we're going to start with is the receiver. We'll move on to the electrical. So here are some of the parts that I got for it. We've got the wiring connections for towing. We got the brake control harness, which goes underneath the steering wheel or next to it. And we got the brake controller. We got the mounting bracket for the 7-way connector. That'll be on the receiver. We got some thread locker for the threads of the receiver. And then the receiver, this is a class 3 receiver. This is good for up to 6,000 pounds. Okay, now this is a draw tight 76031. And your model may differ depending on your year. But what's nice about this one is there should be minimal cutting, and also the connector for your 7-way connector will go right here. Your mounting bracket will go right here for your 7-way connector. Now the first step to get your hitch or your receiver on is to go ahead and take out your tow hook on the back side here, which would be these 2 bolts, and then you should have room to put your receiver on, because it's going to use this hole, and that hole. So those 3 holes are what it's going to need to put your receiver on. And these are going to be 18mm, and it is a good idea to use your safety glasses, that way nothing will get in your eyes. Now once you get your tow hook or your tie down off, you may need to cut your carbon canister shield diagonally like this with some 10 snips or whatever you might have. Now it may or may not go in without this cut, so if you have 2 people, it's best to hold one side and try the other side, and then if it won't go in, go ahead and just cut it right there. Depending on what your year is, this may be in a different position. Now we've got 3 flat washers, 3 lock washers, and 3 M12 bolts for the hitch on this side. So we have all these, and then you'll want to go flat or lock washer, flat washer, just like that, and that's how it's going to go up into the frame. And then we'll tighten all these down to 76 foot-pounds. I'll go ahead and just cut it, and if I need to cut a little bit extra, I might. So also, if you have some good enough wire cutters too, you may be able to just trim it like that. Cut that off. Cut some more. It should be enough. You may or may not have to cut a little more on that. And we'll try to put this on and see how it fits. And I guess it does hit right there, so it is a good thing that it was cut. So if you can get 1 or 2 in on this side, if you're just doing this one person, you want to put some, I'll put some thread locker on this too before I get these installed. So I'm using the red thread locker. You can use the blue thread locker. I'm just not planning on taking this hitch off, so I figure the red might be a little better. Go ahead and put this up here. Got that one started. Now on this side there's nothing to remove. You just push it up enough to make it fit flush. You may have to finagle this one way or the other to get these to line up. Well, once you get all 6 of these put in, you torque them down to 76 foot-pounds. So the new bolts are 19 millimeter. So we'll go ahead and tighten those up. Okay. Torque these down. Now what's nice about this one, this draw tight, is that there's no cutting of your rear bumper and you don't have to move your spare tire, which is nice. Okay. And then you want to check these periodically just to make sure that they don't loosen up over time. Alright, once you have all the bolts tightened to the proper torque, we'll just look to make sure it's not going to interfere with anything. No wiring. It looks like it's pushing up on the rear bumper a little bit, but that's no big deal. So the next step, what we can do is put the mounting bracket on for the 7-way connector. And then this is part number 20212 for tow ready. Go try it this way or see if it goes that way, whichever way. And then it comes with lock washers and the nut already attached. Just put these through. And of course tighten these up. And then it also comes with the bolts and nuts and lock washers for the connector too, to go into there. Now the next step in getting this tow ready will be the wiring harness. So to get the wiring harness put in, you'll need to open up your rear cover for your rear compartment here. And there's going to be 3 bolts. They're all 10 millimeter. One here. I went ahead and took these out already just to speed it up. So you're going to have 2 towards the front and 1 near the rear. And they're all going to be the same length, so you don't have to worry about mixing these up. And then once those 3 are off, you can take this rear threshold off, and that's just going to snap off with your hands. You should be able to pull up with your hands. And just reach your fingers underneath there, pull up. Snap piece in the middle there. From underneath you can snap it up. And just pull that to one side, and then that'll lift off. And then from there you have a if you have a panel removal tool, just pull these up. If you don't, a flathead screwdriver should work fine for you. Now, once those 4 are snapped up, you should be able to move this forward and just push it out of your way there. Now you may or may not want to pull up this panel. Now this is on the driver's side, and it's just going to be a flathead screwdriver to pry these up. And then 10 millimeter bolts, 1 on each side there. And then your panel tool, your trim panel tool, will pull these 2 up, and that can come off. But like I said, you may be able to get to your wiring without taking this off. For me, I ended up taking off this back panel, or just pulling it forward. And really the only thing holding it on was a Phillips screwdriver bolt here, and that went into right here. And so once you take that out, everything else is just the clips that you can pull forward or pull towards the center of the vehicle, and that way you can see where your wiring's at. Now if you're able to get to it through here, you just want to go straight towards the back of the vehicle, and they are attached right here and here. So that's the location, because when I originally put my arm through here, I thought it was this one up top, but it's not that one. So you'll want to go towards the rear of the vehicle once you stick your hand in there, and it's going to be this one and this one to hook into. Once you get the wiring in there, just make sure this is turned the right way. Once you hear that click, you know it's in. And then the other one is right next to it. This one you'll have to flip around like this. So what I did, I just pushed it in a little bit. I pushed the tab in and then pulled it up, and then eventually it went in. Just make sure those have a good connection. And then we can put the relays in. Now you're going to have 3 relays. Of course, the brown relay goes to the brown connector. You have 2 blue connectors, or two blue relays. Just make sure you push them all the way in. And once those are pushed all the way in, there's some foam included with the kit, and what this does, it helps those relays from rattling around. So what you want to do is just wrap each relay. And then you can just shove them back in there. Now I found some cotton behind the 3rd row seat, so I'm just going to throw that on the bottom underneath these. That'll keep them from rattling as much, hopefully. And then just make sure your panel is under the rubber gasket here. put your hook back in. This was facing up. Okay, once you get your panel back on, you can get this piece on, push those down, tighten these down with a 10mm, and you may have to lift this, you may have to adjust that a little. Get those in. You should just push down. Okay, make sure your panel is all pushed back in. Put the storage container back. Lift this up. And we'll put the 3 bolts back in. So just make sure that rubber gasket is over your threshold. And then you can put the middle piece in. Now you should have 2 relays left over from your kit. So you'll want to open up the hood of your Pathfinder, and to the driver's side, right to the side of your battery, you're going to have a circuit breaker relay box, and you'll want to just pull out on the tab and then pull up on the cover. And from the factory, they did pre-install these 2 relays, and if you look in here, it says trailer turn left and right. So that's what those relays are going to be for. But if they didn't come pre-installed, you'll want to go ahead and just put them in. And then once that's done, you can close the box back up. And then we'll move to the back for the wiring. Now this is what you should have left with your kit, is your connector, your 7-way connector, your hardware for the mounting bracket, and then you'll have some zip ties, and you'll have the connector that goes to your 7-way. Now these 2 ends, they're going to be on the passenger side rear, and they're going to have dummy plugs in them, so we'll have to take those out and then attach these 2 for your wiring. So this is that side over here that we're going to be looking for those plugs. And again, it's a good idea to wear some safety glasses underneath the vehicle. So let's take a look here. And if you got your hitch already installed, they are right next to that. Or if you have your receiver installed already, it's right next to it. It's going to be right here and right here. And if you have some needle nose pliers, what we can do is push these tabs in and push the tabs in over here. And push these tabs and these tabs in, and then pull the wiring down a little bit, and then take these dummy plugs out. Just push those tabs in, and pull outward on the plug. And that'll come down a little bit. We'll do the same for this one. Come down some. Okay, so now we'll have to push the tab in on both sides and take the dummy plugs out. Well, I just use my fingernails, and it is, you just push that tab in and then that comes out. So it's just a light coat that you want to put on this, and it says to all the male and the female connections. Just really light, just enough to seal out the moisture. So you can see that's about all I did. I didn't do a whole lot. And then you'll just push them in and then push the tabs back in to the frame. And then once you hear the click, you'll know they're all the way in. Okay, you can see those are both in all the way. Just put them back into where their holes were. Okay, once you get your wiring harness connected, from there you can just push it behind your hitch or your receiver. And what I did, there's 3 holes, there may be more, in your bumper. So what I did, I went ahead and just zip tied it from here, then at this location here, and then there's one more, and then there's one more over here, and that way the wire loom will stay up out of the way and you don't have to tie it to your receiver either. So once you do that, I went ahead and put some extra tape around the wiring, and then I hooked up the connector, and then from this side I just attached the 4 bolts with the nuts in the back. And if you have a tester, you can test your wired connections, and your wiring connector just pushes in the back of the receptacle once your receptacle is attached to your mounting bracket. Now the next part of this install is the Primus IQ proportional braking system, and this is a brake controller. It's a e-brake or electronic trailer brake controller for 1 to 3 axles, and this is part number 90160. Now there are a lot of brake controllers out there, so it's really up to you as to what kind and what brand that you buy. And this one is by Takancha, and they actually have the brake controller, one of the best brake controllers out there. It's a little bit better model than this one, but this one is a good middle of the road brake controller, and it is proportional. So these are all the pieces for the Takancha Primus IQ, and as you can tell, or if you've been driving your Pathfinder for a while, there's not a lot of knee space on this. So what I'm thinking about doing is putting it in the pocket down below the air conditioning controls, and just run the wiring underneath here, running the wire underneath here, and then have it come out here, and then I can just take it out when I'm not using it. So you don't want to put anything underneath your steering wheel here, because your steering wheel will go up and down. But if you have plenty of knee room, you could put it here. Your Pathfinder should have a e-brake controller wire underneath the dash. So you'll want to find it. It looks a lot like this, if you bought the adapter kit for the Nissan Pathfinders. And the number for that is 3050-P. And this is a Nissan brake control harness. Now this says 2004 to 2008, but it actually works on other years also. So you just have to check your application and make sure it's going to work for you. But this should be the end that plugs into your Pathfinder underneath the dash. Now the second to last part of getting this Nissan Pathfinder tow ready is getting the e-brake controller put on, and they come pre-wired from the factory for the e-brake wiring. So it's right in the middle where the brake is at, the brake pedal's at, and then you just go straight up and the wiring is up there. So the wiring is going to be right there. It is attached with tape, but you can see it right there. So you just pull that down, and then you're ready to connect your Nissan adapter that goes to that to your e-brake controller. So if you buy a wiring adapter to go to that, it will plug right into the back of your e-brake controller. So there is your connector for your e-brake, and it's just right above your brake pedal there, and it was attached with tape. So that's what we're going to hook into. So I found the best place to put this is for this vehicle would be right up in here somewhere, and that way it's up out of the way. You're not going to be hitting it. I was thinking about putting the brake controller under the climate controls, but I don't want to block any of the power cords or the power charging receptacles. So I'm going to go ahead and just put it right in here and then tuck the wiring up underneath. Now I just pulled the door off the circuit breaker door here. I just took that door off, and the plug that was for the e-brake controller has a little dummy end on it, so you have to pull that off first before you can connect your wiring. So just remember that. And then once you take that dummy end off, it should plug right in. Here's that end that I'm telling you about. Okay, once that's connected, you can mount your e-brake controller and route your wiring. And then when you're drilling into the plastic or putting this into the plastic, just the mounting bracket here, just be careful because there is longer pieces of plastic, so you may not have a straight shot into this, so just feel behind it if you can, because there may be metal that you're hitting into. Right in there, it looks like there's metal or plastic that's doubled over. So you can either put this mounting bracket on or put this mounting bracket on, either one. They're both going to do the same thing. It's just this one is nice because this just snaps into it and you can take it in or out if you want. The other one is more of a permanent mount, and you'll put screws on either side once it's mounted or before it's mounted in there. Whatever's easier for you to put these screws into. So you have a 90 degrees one way or the other on this. You can mount it up to this far, or this far down, or this far up. So you have 90 degrees in either direction for mounting. You just don't want to do it crooked, like sideways. You don't want to do it that way or this way. Try to make it as horizontal or just parallel and not crooked as you can. So as parallel to the panel as you can would be the best mounting method. Once you get a good spot for this, you can go ahead and screw it in. And then when you're screwing anything in down here, just make sure there's no airbag modules or anything behind there that will mess up your installation. And when you route the wiring, this will plug into the back of it. And you may need to bunch up your wiring and zip tie it before you actually hook this up. So we'll do that first. Okay, once you get it all wired up and you get the zip ties around the wiring, just make sure that it's not going to interfere with your brake pedal or your gas pedal when it goes up and down, or your emergency brake. So make sure that wiring's out of the way. You can plug it in. You're going to see the NC, or not connected, and then it'll be followed by the two dots there. Now for your brake boost, now if you have a smaller trailer, you want to leave it at off or 1. Now mine is on 1. If you have it at 2, that'll be equal to the vehicle weight or more, and then 3 would be a very big trailer or a bigger trailer. So I'm just going to leave it at boost 1. Now if I had trailer brakes, or if I had a trailer connected, I could hold this in, the numbers would move, and then you can adjust your power setting with this wheel to the left. So that's how this controller operates. Now the next part to get this tow ready is to put in some airbags or replace the springs, to put heavy duty springs in the back of the Pathfinder. But I did order some heavy duty springs and they won't be here for another 3 months. So I went ahead and bought some airbags, and this is the Firestone brand 4118. Now the instructions tell you to take out the center valve stem and squish this down, put the valve stem back in to keep it from moving. But when these are brand new, they're not very pliable and they're hard to fit in here. So when I tried it, it just would not unfold to go down in here. So what I'm going to do, now this is going to be the same as if you're going to replace the spring. Now it would be these 18mm bolts right here, this one and this one here. So we'll loosen that up and take that all the way out. And then this arm will come down. Now we'll put a jack underneath the mounting spring here, or the mounting bracket for the spring. We'll go ahead and put a jack under here so that we can take the tension off of this bolt. And then when we'll pull this bolt out, this will be able to come down. I'll spray this with some penetrating catalyst. to put a little bit more tension, just push it up on that spring to get this bolt out. Go. And once that bolt is out, we can slowly lower down the jack. Now this jounce stop has a tab on it. I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. And then just slightly push down on it. Be careful, just watch your other mount on the other side. Make sure you're not doing any damage over there. That's how you would pull out the spring if you had heavy duty springs. Now to put the airbag in, you want to put the valve stem down. Slide that through. Just slide it all the way down. You probably have to readjust your jack to get these two holes to line up. And just be careful when you hit it with a rubber mallet. Just make sure your threads don't get damaged. So make sure you can get it in most of the way, and then just tapping it in the rest of the way won't hurt the threads. Now I couldn't find a good torque value for this bolt here, so I'm guessing anywhere in the 60 to 80 range, but it may be a little bit higher. So if anybody knows that for sure, feel free to comment on that. Lower your jack down. Go ahead and put your tire back on, or leave it off, because you still need to route the tubing for the air. So the tubing would go out from here. The tubing would go out from here, and you can just run it to the back and figure out, you know, whatever routing you want to use. But I would stay off any exhaust items and make it accessible so that you're able to air it up whenever you need to. Now if you actually put a small air compressor back here to do it, and then you switch, and then you have a switch going to your dash, that's an even better way to do it, but it's a little more costly. So I just decided on the manual airbags. And then once you get the air lines hooked up to both airbags, just make sure that you have a minimum of 5 psi in them at all times, and then the max is 35 psi. So depending on how smooth of a ride you want or how much you're towing, it could vary on that. So just make sure you check for leaks after you put your airbags in and all your tubing in. And you can use soapy water and just spray it at all the connections and make sure you don't have any leaks. Well, I hope this has been helpful. This has been Mike from Mike's Do It Yourself. Good luck on your next home or automotive project. And don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. Thanks for watching.